Video game movies are a tricky thing. That's been my experience anyways. Tell us, Assassin's Creed, is it worth anyone's time?
So instead of a scary movie, what we have is a garbage movie. The Assassin's Creed movie is possibly the worst movie I've seen all year. And I did see Independence Day, whatever the heck they called that one. And that was awful. I'm actually still like having nightmares where both of those movies battle it out for worst movie of the year awards. It's a shame because I like Michael Fassbender a lot. And you can see him just like I said in the my review, he's like chained to a rusty old hot furnace of terrible dialogue. It's like a really thin script. There's really no character development. The idea of these Assassin's Creed games actually got me excited. I had hopes that this could be sort of a Quantum Leap or Doctor Who style thing. The games work where you have a modern day man with a checkered past warping back in time to tap into his ancestors' roots and commit crazy assassinations and murders and intrigue sort of things. And I'm like, that'd be great. You could have, one movie he's off in the American Revolution, the next he's off in the Renaissance, and sort of jumping around and doing crazy assassinations with wacky historical cameos every time. So I thought, all right, awesome. We could develop Michael Fassbender, who's a great actor, and have some wacky stuff happen around him, and then, have a great sequel. It seems like it's a hard thing to mess up, but man, they mess it up. Jeremy Irons is awful. There's a woman who, oh goodness, I'm looking up the name. I'm so sorry. Marion Cotillard, I cannot pronounce her name, but Marion, oh my God, such a great actress who's also chained to terrible dialogue. None of it makes sense. The whole thing becomes like a crappy 1990s Ninja Turtles movie near the end with just this bizarre fight where all the guards are screaming nonsensically while they all attack the assassin one at a time. It's just like everything that you would expect from, and I enjoy shouting about it because I want people to not go, because it's not even fun to make fun of. Whereas, Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad, those were like so bad they're almost good kind of movies. This was just slow, obnoxious, annoying, bad, disappointing. It's not just that it's a bad video game movie. It just wastes all of the possible potential and leaves us with just some dreck that I think has just been designed to just move tickets in non-English speaking countries where you can just put subtitles on this and have some beautiful shots and just hope the money comes rolling in. I hope it doesn't.
Yeah, and a lot of action. So then, how about this question? This goes for everyone. There have been a lot of video game films, both films about actual video games and films that kind of highlight a video game, and then in many cases they go on and become video games themselves. Iain, are you a fan of the genre? Do you have any favorite video game movies?
Well, you see, I mean, I was scarred early because when I was a kid, Tron came out, and that just blew me away completely.
Oh yeah,
and
completely.
then they made the Tron video games around it.
Yep.
And loved playing those. But then we had Super Mario Brothers and Bob Hoskins, who I've since found out afterwards was so disappointed with the film. He turned up on set drunk most days, and you can tell it because it's a really bad film. And there hasn't been, to my mind, a good film of a video game ever made since that point. I mean, you could argue about some, but generally they're all pretty dire. And it gets even worse if you get a film like Phantom Menace, where they stuck the pod race in there, almost it seems just so they could build a video game and sell it around afterwards.
To be fair, that pod racing video game was amazing in arcades. I don't know if you've ever strapped into it. It was all big and clunky and there's no way this is going to make money, but I loved it.
Oh, okay, fair enough. But yeah, as far as a fan of video game movies, no. Whenever I see the film of the game and you're just like, you know what? I think I'd almost rather go and watch a Richard Curtis film rather than deal with that, and that's saying something,
What do you think, Sam?
Well, I like to say that video games have just jumped over movies, to be quite honest. I think that there are video games that sell cinematic elements. I mean, Uncharted and The Last of Us are such easy titles to talk about. In some ways, I think they're not necessarily great games because you end up just watching the action play out in this predetermined way, but it's just interactive enough that it's a good time. Watch Dogs 2, I found, was actually, I think, more entertaining as an interactive film than it was as a game. There's a game called Inside that came out this year. That's a really weird indie title that sort of does this amazing stuff with interactivity. Basically, that one is so confusing and nonsensical. I would hate it as a movie or a cartoon, but when I was controlling it, the mystery worked. So I think that's sort of where I lean is go, okay, well, video game-based movies are bad, but video games that try to be movies, they're doing a pretty good job. They're filling that in, and I'm going to kind of go in that direction.
I would completely agree. Uncharted specifically is so cinematic that, what you said about it is spot on. Like, in my opinion, I haven't really seen any movies based on, like, I saw Mortal Kombat. I was a big Mortal Kombat fan, and I saw that movie, and I mean, it was okay. It wasn't like I walked out of that theater, I was like, this is exactly the movie it needed to be. It just was what it was, and it existed. But some of my favorite video game themed movies, Last Starfighter, Tron, of course. I thought Wreck-It Ralph was actually really good, even though it was, touching on a lot of different points. Burke here posed Wing Commander, which I didn't know that was a movie. And I don't know how good it was.
And there's just so many movies that feel like video games. That's what I felt like The Matrix was. The Matrix was so clearly, the creators were obsessed with digital culture, and they said, let's make it feel like a video game that can't be made yet. All the bullet time stuff that got copied over the next, 12, 15 years. I mean, what more do you need to say? The Wachowskis really had the idea of an interactive a video game-ish movie or movie-ish video game, whatever you call it, and that's, Hollywood's picked up on those cues. There's been action movies that feel like crazy video games. I'm cool with that. Yeah.
And I mean, there's hope, because for the longest time, more often than not, comic book movies were really bad. And now many would say that that's, one of the most successful kind of genres of movies right now, at least from a money-making standpoint and from a quality standpoint. They are so much better now than they ever used to be. So
what you're saying is, you're saying that Paul Rudd will be Dr. Mario in the blockbuster of 2037. I'm into it. I'm ready.
Dr. Mario, the movie. Man, that has to happen now.
But if you want to see a bad comic book film, watch the original Fantastic Four film. It is excretably poor. It's not even funnily bad. It's just...
I think a lot of people would agree.
I'm going to go grab my VHS of Howard the Duck right now and just be in peace. That's where I'm going.
Yeah, but Howard the Duck is so bad it's good. Sam Machkovech, Ars Technica, always a pleasure getting you on. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us your thoughts on all these stories and a whole lot more.